The research ship Kethamori floated dead in space, its lights dim and flickering. Dr. Zara Velthine pressed her blue-scaled hands against the cold viewport and stared into the endless darkness. 3 weeks ago, this had been an exciting scientific mission. Now it looked like their tomb. "How much oxygen do we have left?" she asked Marcus Chen, the human chief engineer who was working on a broken control panel nearby. Marcus wiped sweat from his forehead with a dirty cloth. "Maybe 18 hours if we're lucky. Less if we keep talking." Zara's heart sank. 18 hours. That was all the time left for 47 beings from 6 different species, all because Commander Thexerol and his hegemony fleet had decided they were too dangerous to live. It had started so well. The expedition to the dead world of Kepler 442b had found amazing things. Ancient ruins that were millions of years old, strange machines that still worked after all that time, and most important of all, records that told the story of something terrible that had happened long ago, something that had killed entire civilizations across the galaxy. Zara was a xenobiologist from the Peaceful Meridian Collective. She studied alien life forms and had been excited to join this mission. The team had scientists from many worlds, protected by warships from the powerful Hegemony Alliance. Everything seemed safe and normal, but when they found those ancient records, everything changed. The records spoke of machines that could destroy all life. They told of a great war that happened millions of years ago. Most scary of all, they showed where more of these deadly machines might still be sleeping, waiting to wake up. Commander Thexerol had studied the data for 3 days. Then he called all the expedition leaders to his flagship. Zara remembered that meeting clearly. The hegemony commander was a tall, proud being with 4 arms and golden skin. His species believed they were better than everyone else in the galaxy. "This knowledge is too dangerous," Thexerol had said, his voice cold and angry. "Lesser species cannot be trusted with such power." Especially not the humans. Dr. Sarah Kim, the human expedition leader, had stood up. "This affects all life in the galaxy. Every species has the right to know about this threat." Thexerol's eyes had glowed with rage. "Humans are chaos makers. You spread disorder wherever you go. You cannot have this knowledge." The argument had gone on for hours. Other species leaders had tried to support the humans, but the hegemony ships had more weapons. In the end, Thexerol made his decision. "We are taking all valuable personnel back to hegemony space," he announced. "The research data will be studied by proper authorities." "What about the rest of us?" Marcus had asked. Thexerol had looked at him like he was looking at garbage. "Humans and other primitive species are expendable." That had been 3 days ago. The hegemony ships had taken all the important hegemony citizens and left everyone else behind. They had also broken the research ship's engines and life support systems. It was meant to look like an accident, but everyone knew the truth. Now Zara watched Marcus work on the broken systems and felt amazed. Most of her people would have given up by now. The other alien species on the ship were already preparing for death, saying prayers and writing final messages to their families. But the humans kept working there, Marcus said suddenly. "I got the heating system working again." Warm air began flowing through the ship. It wouldn't last long with the main power failing, but it felt wonderful. Around the ship, other humans were doing similar small miracles. They fixed broken water recyclers with spare parts. They rewired damaged computers using tools they made from scrap metal. They even got some of the emergency lights working again. "How do you do it?" Zara asked Marcus. "How do you keep trying when everything is hopeless?" Marcus looked at her with tired but determined eyes. "Because giving up means dying, and we're too stubborn to die easily." Dr. Sarah Kim came over to join them. The human leader looked exhausted, but was still working to keep everyone's spirits up. "Any luck with the communications array?" she asked Marcus. "I got it working for maybe 10 minutes, Marcus replied. "Sent out a distress signal, but we're too far from any trade routes. Nobody will hear us in time." Sarah nodded sadly. "Well, we tried. That's what matters." Zara had studied human behavior for years, but she had never seen it up close like this. Everything she had been taught said that humans were violent and disorganized. The hegemony called them primitive creatures who barely deserved to travel among the stars. But watching them now, she saw something different. The humans worked together perfectly. They shared their food and water equally with all species on the ship, even though they could have kept more for themselves. When the young Altarian navigator started crying in fear, it was a human engineer who sat with him and told him stories to calm him down. When the elderly vegan scientist had trouble breathing in the thin air, the human doctor gave him extra oxygen from her own mask. "Why do you help us?" Zara asked Sarah. "Your people are used to this kind of danger. You could survive longer if you didn't share your resources with us." Sarah smiled, though she looked very tired. "Because that's not who we are. Humans don't leave people behind. We're stronger when we work together." The hours passed slowly. The ship grew colder despite Marcus's repairs. The air became thinner. Some of the alien crew members fell asleep and might not wake up. But the humans kept working, kept trying, kept hoping. Zara found herself staying close to the humans. Their determination gave her strength. When her own people would have given up days ago, these strange creatures from Earth kept fighting against death itself. "I owe you an apology," she told Sarah during what might be their last hour. "For what?" "For believing what the hegemony said about your people. You're not primitive at all. You're something else, something special." Sarah squeezed her hand gently. "We're just doing what anyone would do." But Zara knew that wasn't true. Her own species would have accepted their fate with dignity. The proud hegemony races would have died in anger and blame. The peaceful vegans would have meditated themselves into death. Only humans kept fighting when fighting was useless. Only humans refused to accept the impossible. As the life support systems finally began to fail completely, Zara closed her eyes and tried to remember her home world. The blue oceans and silver cities of Meridia seemed like a beautiful dream now. She thought of her family and hoped they would understand why she had died so far from home. But even as darkness began to take her, she could hear Marcus still working on something in the engineering section. Still trying, still refusing to give up. These humans were remarkable, she thought, as consciousness faded. If they had more time, if they had better technology, if the galaxy gave them a real chance, what amazing things could they accomplish? She would never know. In a few more hours, the cold and airless ship would become their tomb. The hegemony would report their deaths as a tragic accident, and the galaxy would lose some of its most interesting creatures. But at least she had learned something important before the end. Everything the galaxy believed about humans was wrong. They weren't primitive. They weren't chaotic. They were something the galaxy had never seen before. Something extraordinary. Zara's eyes opened slowly. She was still alive, though she wasn't sure why. The ship was still cold and dark, but somehow there was enough air to breathe. Her blue scales felt stiff from the cold, but her heart was still beating. "Marcus?" she called out weakly. "Over here," came his tired voice from the engineering section. "Don't ask me how, but I got the emergency life support working for another few hours." Zara tried to sit up, but her body felt heavy and weak. Around her, other survivors were slowly waking up. Some of them looked very bad. The elderly vegan scientist wasn't moving at all. "How long do we have?" asked Dr. Sarah Kim, her voice barely above a whisper. "Maybe 2 hours," Marcus replied. "I'm sorry." "I tried everything," Sarah nodded. She looked like she wanted to say something encouraging, but there was nothing left to say. They had fought as hard as they could. Now they could only wait for the end. That was when the alarms started beeping. "What's that?" Zara asked. Marcus crawled over to the sensor station and looked at the displays. His tired face suddenly showed surprise and fear. "There's a ship coming," he said. "Big one. Really big." Everyone who could still move gathered around the sensor display. The screen showed a massive object moving toward them at incredible speed. It was much larger than any hegemony warship Zara had ever seen. "Can you identify it?" Sarah asked. Marcus worked on the controls with shaking hands. The ship's computers were barely working, but he managed to get a basic scan. When the results came up, his face went pale. It's human," he said in shock. The other survivors looked at each other in confusion. Human, that was impossible. Everyone knew that humans barely had any spaceships. They were a young species that had only recently learned to travel between stars. They certainly didn't have warships this big. "Are you sure?" Sarah asked. Before Marcus could answer, a strong, clear voice came through the communication system. "Attention, disabled vessel. This is Captain Sarah Morrison of the United Earth Navy ship Retribution. We have detected your distress signal. Please respond if you can hear this message." The survivors stared at each other in shock. United Earth Navy? Earth didn't have a navy. Earth barely had a space program according to all the galactic databases. Sarah Kim found her voice first. "This is Dr. Sarah Kim of the research vessel Keth Mori. We have 47 survivors in critical condition. Our life support is failing. Copy that, Dr. Kim. We are moving to rescue positions now. Prepare for emergency docking procedures in 15 minutes. 15 minutes? Zara looked at the sensors again. The massive ship was still very far away. No known technology could cover that distance so quickly. But exactly 15 minutes later, the Kethmori shook gently as something grabbed it. Through the small viewports, Zara could see metal walls moving past them. They were being pulled into a hangar bay. The hangar bay was enormous, bigger than some space stations Zara had visited. The walls were lined with weapons that looked more advanced than anything in the hegemony fleet. Dozens of smaller human ships sat in neat rows, each one looking deadly and efficient. Impossible, whispered Dr. Venth, one of the surviving alien scientists. Humans don't have technology like this. As their ship settled onto the hangar deck, Zara watched through the viewport in amazement. Hundreds of humans in military uniforms were moving around with perfect organization. They wore advanced armor and carried weapons she didn't recognize. These didn't look like the primitive humans everyone talked about in the galaxy. The hangar filled with breathable atmosphere and gravity plates activated. A team of humans in medical uniforms approached, their ship with floating stretchers and equipment that looked more advanced than anything in hegemony hospitals. This is Captain Morrison. The voice came through the speakers again. Our medical teams are coming aboard now. Don't be afraid. You're safe. The airlock opened and the first human medic stepped inside. She was a young woman with kind eyes and confident movements. She quickly scanned the survivors with a handheld device. Severe oxygen deprivation and hypothermia, she reported to her team. Begin treatment immediately. More medics came aboard. They worked with incredible skill and speed. They gave oxygen to the survivors who needed it most. They wrapped everyone in warming blankets that seemed to generate their own heat. They administered medicines that made Zara feel stronger within minutes. How is this possible? Zara asked the medic who was treating her. The woman smiled. Standard emergency medicine. You'll be fine in a few hours. But Zara wasn't asking about the medicine. She was asking about everything. The massive warship, the advanced technology, the professional military crew. Where had all this come from? As the medics carried the survivors to the medical bay, Zara got her first good look at the human warship. The corridors were wide and clean. The walls were covered with displays showing tactical information. Human crew members moved with military precision, their uniforms bearing ranks and insignia she had never seen before. This wasn't just a rescue ship. This was a warship designed for serious combat, and it was more advanced than anything the hegemony had. In the medical bay, Zara was placed on a bed that automatically adjusted to her body shape and began treating her injuries. Around her, human doctors and nurses worked to save the other survivors. Their equipment was amazing. Machines that could heal damaged organs, scanners that could see inside a body without cutting it open, medicines that worked on any species. Dr. Veltine, a human officer, approached her bed. He was an older man with gray hair and intelligent eyes. His uniform showed the rank of captain. I'm Captain Morrison. How are you feeling? Better, thank you, Zara replied. But I have questions. Morrison smiled. I'm sure you do. Everyone does when they first see one of our ships. Your ships? How many do you have? Enough, Morrison said. But we can talk about that later. Right now you need to rest and recover. Captain, Zara said urgently. There's something you need to know. The hegemony left us here to die. They took data about ancient weapons that could threaten the entire galaxy. Morrison's expression became serious. We know about the hegemony's actions, and we know about the ancient machines. Zara stared at him in shock. You know, Dr. Velthane, there's a lot the galaxy doesn't know about humanity. We've been watching, we've been learning, and we've been preparing. Preparing for what? Morrison looked around the medical bay, where human crew members were saving the lives of beings from 6 different species. For the day when we would have to stop hiding and start protecting the people who need protection. Zara felt her world changing around her. Everything she thought she knew was wrong. Humans weren't primitive. They weren't weak. They had been pretending to be something they weren't. Why? She asked. Why hide your true abilities? Because the galaxy isn't ready for the truth about humanity, Morrison said. But after what the hegemony did to you and your crew, maybe it's time to stop hiding. As Zara lay on the medical bed, Surrounded by technology that shouldn't exist and saved by people who were supposed to be primitive, she realized that everything was about to change. The galaxy thought it knew humanity. The galaxy was wrong. And soon, everyone would learn the truth. 2 days later, Zara felt much better. The human medical technology had healed her quickly and completely. She could walk around the ship now, and what she saw amazed her more each day. The Retribution was not just big. It was a floating city. It had thousands of crew members all working with perfect organization. The ship's computers were more advanced than anything she had seen in the hegemony fleet. The weapon systems looked like they could destroy entire planets. But most surprising of all was how the humans treated their alien guests. They gave them comfortable rooms, good food, and complete freedom to explore the ship. No one watched them or kept them locked up. The humans acted like saving 47 strangers was just normal behavior. "You're confused," said Captain Morrison, when he found Zara looking out at the stars from an observation deck. "I can see it in your eyes," Zara nodded. "Everything I was taught about humans is wrong. Your people are supposed to be primitive, new to space travel, violent and disorganized. But this ship, your crew, your technology, none of it matches what the galaxy believes." Morrison sat down next to her. "What does the galaxy believe about the Hegemony Alliance?" "They're the strongest military power in the galaxy. They keep peace and order. They protect civilized species from dangers." Morrison made a bitter sound. "They left you to die in space because you found some old ruins. That was different. The information was dangerous, was it? Or was it dangerous to the Hegemony's power?" Zara thought about this. "I don't understand." Morrison stood up and walked to a wall display. He pressed some buttons and images appeared on the screen. They showed planets, space battles, and burning cities. 50 years ago, the Hegemony attacked a human colony world called New Shanghai. They said it was pirates, but we knew better. They wanted to test our defenses and steal our technology. The images showed human settlements being destroyed by Hegemony weapons. 30 years ago, they did it again. This time they hit our research station on Europa. Said it was an accident, but they took all our scientific data before they left. More images of destruction and death. 20 years ago, they attacked Earth itself. Not directly, of course. They used their puppet species to do the fighting. But we knew who was really behind it. Zara watched the images with growing horror. The Hegemony has been attacking you for 50 years? Testing us, seeing how strong we were, stealing our discoveries, making sure we stayed weak and primitive in the eyes of the galaxy. Morrison turned back to her, but each attack taught us something important. What? That we were alone. No one would help us. The galactic community believed the Hegemony's lies about us being dangerous and chaotic. If we wanted to survive, we had to become strong enough to protect ourselves. Morrison pressed more buttons. New images appeared showing massive construction projects in space. Ships being built in hidden asteroid bases. Humans in military uniforms working alongside beings from other species. We started building our real fleet 40 years ago. Hidden shipyards in empty star systems. Secret research bases on dead worlds. We developed new weapons, new defenses, new technologies. How did you keep it secret? We're good at pretending to be what people expect us to be. The galaxy wanted to see primitive humans, so that's what we showed them. We let them think Earth was our only major world. We pretended our ships were slow and weak. We acted confused and grateful when other species helped us. Zara stared at the images. "How many ships do you really have?" Morrison smiled. "More than the Hegemony thinks we have. Enough to make a difference when the time comes. When will that be?" Morrison's expression became serious. "Soon. The ancient weapons your expedition found are real, Dr. Velthane, and the Hegemony is going to try to use them. Use them? But they're incredibly dangerous. The Hegemony doesn't care about danger. They care about power. They think they can control the ancient machines and use them to rule the galaxy forever." Morrison brought up more images. These showed the ancient ruins that Zara's expedition had found, along with detailed analysis of the alien technology. "We've been studying these machines for years. We found other sites, other ruins. We know what they really are." "What?" "Weapons designed to destroy all life in the galaxy. The species that built them thought they were creating the perfect defense system. Instead, they created something that wiped out their entire civilization and nearly ended all life everywhere." Zara felt cold fear in her stomach. "And the Hegemony wants to activate them?" "They think they can control the machines. They think they're smart enough to use them safely. They're wrong." Morrison showed her more data, pictures of dead worlds, evidence of ancient battles, computer models showing how the machines spread from world to world, converting everything they touched into more machines. If the hegemony activates even one of these devices, it could start a chain reaction that destroys every living thing in the galaxy. Then we have to stop them. Yes, we do. Morrison looked at her carefully. But stopping them means revealing the truth about humanity. It means the end of our secret. Once the galaxy knows what we really are, everything changes. Zara thought about this. What will happen to species like mine? The Meridian Collective has always been protected by the hegemony. You'll be protected by us instead. All the species that want protection will have it. But it will be real protection, not the fake protection the hegemony offers. Morrison pressed another button and the display showed a map of the galaxy. Red dots marked hegemony worlds. Blue dots marked human allies. We're not the only ones who know the truth about the hegemony. Many species have been secretly working with us, sharing information, developing technology, preparing for the day when we could fight back. Zara was amazed to see how many blue dots there were, dozens of species including some she thought were completely loyal to the hegemony. The Vegan Confederation has been helping us develop better medical technology. The Altarian Republic shares star charts and navigation data. The Centauri Union helps us build better engines. Even some hegemony member species have been secretly sending us information. Why? Because they're tired of being told they're not good enough. Tired of being treated like children. Tired of living under the hegemony's boot. Morrison turned off the display and sat back down next to Zara. The question now is what you want to do. We can take you back to your home world, and you can pretend none of this ever happened, or you can help us stop the hegemony from destroying the galaxy. Zara thought about her peaceful life on Meridia, her research work, her family and friends. All of that seemed very far away now. If I help you, what would I do? We need someone who understands the ancient machines. Someone who can help us figure out how to shut them down permanently. Someone who can speak to other species and convince them that humans aren't the enemy. And if I go home? Morrison's expression was sad. Then you go home and wait for the hegemony to end the world. Zara stood up and walked back to the viewport. Outside, she could see other human ships moving through space. Fast, powerful vessels that the galaxy didn't know existed. She thought about Marcus and the other humans who had refused to give up, even when death was certain. She thought about the human medical team that had saved her life without asking for anything in return. She thought about Captain Morrison, who could have easily lied to her but chose to tell the truth instead. I'll help you, she said. Morrison smiled. I hoped you would. Welcome to the real war, Dr. Veltain. As Zara looked out at the hidden human fleet, she realized that the galaxy was about to change forever, and she was going to help make it happen. 1 week after joining the human cause, Zara stood on the bridge of the Retribution and watched something that changed her understanding of everything. Ships were coming out of hyperspace all around them. Dozens of them, then hundreds, human warships of every size, from small fast fighters to massive battleships that made the Retribution look small. Each ship was sleek, powerful, and obviously built for war. How many? Zara asked Captain Morrison, who was standing beside her. 237 ships in this fleet, Morrison replied. And this is just one of our battle groups. Zara stared at the massive formation of warships.
How many battle groups do you have?
Morrison smiled. Enough! On the bridge's main display, a new face appeared. It was an older human man with gray hair and the calm eyes of someone who had seen many battles. His uniform showed more decorations than any hegemony admiral Zara had ever seen. Captain Morrison, the man said, please report to the Washington for briefing. Bring Dr. Velthane and the other survivors. Yes, Admiral Harrison, Morrison replied. An hour later, Zara found herself in the conference room of the fleet flagship Washington. The room was huge, with displays showing star charts and tactical information. Around the table sat human officers from dozens of different ships, along with beings from other species she didn't recognize at first. Admiral Harrison stood at the head of the table. He was tall and confident, with the kind of presence that made everyone listen when he spoke. Ladies and gentlemen, he began, the time for hiding is over. The hegemony has activated the first ancient weapon. Gasps came from around the table. Zara felt her heart stop. When? Asked Captain Morrison. 6 hours ago, at their capital world of Hegemonia Prime. They thought they could use the machine to demonstrate their ultimate power to the galaxy. Admiral Harrison pressed a button, and the main display showed images from the hegemony capital system. But instead of showing off their power, the images showed chaos and destruction. The machine worked exactly as designed, Harrison continued. It began converting all matter in the system into more machines. The hegemony fleet tried to stop it, but their energy weapons only made it stronger. The machine has already consumed 3 planets and is spreading to neighboring systems. Zara watched in horror as the display showed entire worlds being turned into metal and circuits. Billions of beings were dying, including many hegemony citizens who had no idea what their leaders had done. "How long before it spreads across the galaxy?" asked one of the human officers. "At current rate of expansion, the machines will reach Earth in 18 months, Harrison replied. "But the rate is increasing as the machines build more of themselves. We estimate we have 6 months before the spread becomes unstoppable." The room was quiet except for the hum of the ship's engines. Everyone understood what this meant. If they couldn't stop the machines in 6 months, every living thing in the galaxy would die. "What's our plan?" Morrison asked. Harrison brought up a new display showing the galaxy divided into different colored sections. "Operation Homecoming begins now. We're going to reveal our true fleet to the galaxy and start coordinating the defense of all inhabited systems. But first we need to shut down the machine at Hegemonia Prime before it spreads any further." "How do we shut it down?" Zara asked. Harrison looked at her with interest. "That's where you come in, Dr. Velthane. You and your team studied the original ruins. You understand how these machines work better than anyone." Zara felt the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. "I'll do whatever I can to help." "Excellent. But shutting down the machines is only part of our mission. We also need to unite the galaxy against this threat. That means convincing every species that humans are their allies, not their enemies." Harrison pressed another button, and the display showed the locations of human fleets throughout the galaxy. "We have battle groups moving to protect every major inhabited system. Our diplomatic teams are already contacting planetary governments to offer our protection and assistance. Within 24 hours, every world in the galaxy will know that humanity has a real space navy." One of the alien officers at the table spoke up. He was a tall, thin being with silver skin that Zara recognized as an Altarian. "What about species that are loyal to the hegemony? They might see this as an invasion." "Some will," Harrison admitted. "But most species joined the hegemony because they were afraid, or because they had no choice. Once they see that we offer real protection without demanding submission, most of them will join us." The meeting continued for several hours. Zara learned about the true scope of the human military. They had secret bases in hundreds of star systems. They had developed new weapons that could actually damage the ancient machines. Most importantly, they had spent decades building relationships with other species who were tired of hegemony rule. "Why didn't you reveal yourselves before this?" Zara asked during a break in the meeting. Admiral Harrison looked thoughtful. "Because we weren't ready. We needed time to build enough ships to protect everyone. We needed allies who could help us govern the galaxy after the hegemony fell. And we needed the right moment, when the galaxy would see us as saviors instead of conquerors. And now is that moment? Now we don't have a choice. If we wait any longer, there won't be a galaxy left to save." After the meeting, Zara was given a tour of the Washington. The ship was even more advanced than the Retribution. Its weapons could destroy entire fleets. Its defenses could withstand attacks that would cripple hegemony dreadnoughts. Its computers could coordinate battles across multiple star systems at the same time. But what impressed her most was the crew. They were humans from dozens of different worlds, working alongside beings from other species. Everyone seemed to know their job perfectly. There was no chaos or confusion, just smooth efficiency. "How long have you been preparing for this war?" Zara asked her guide, a young human officer named Lieutenant Chen. "My whole life," Chen replied. "My parents were killed in the hegemony attack on New Shanghai. I joined the Navy when I was 18. Most of us have similar stories. Do you hate them? The hegemony species?" Chen thought about this. "I hate their leaders. I hate their system. But most of their people are just trying to live their lives same as anyone else. When this is over, we'll welcome them as equals." That evening, Zara stood in her quarters looking out at the human fleet. Tomorrow they would begin their attack on the ancient machine at Hegemonia Prime. It would be the most dangerous battle in galactic history. If they failed, everyone would die. If they succeeded, They would save the galaxy, but also reveal that humans were the most powerful military force in known space. She thought about her quiet life as a researcher on Meridia. That life seemed like it belonged to someone else now. She was part of something much bigger now, something that would determine the fate of every living being in the galaxy. Marcus Chen knocked on her door. He looked much better than he had on the dying research ship. The humans had given him a new uniform and made him a technical advisor to their engineering teams. "Are you ready for tomorrow?" he asked. "No," Zara replied honestly. "Are you?" Marcus smiled the same stubborn smile she remembered from their dying ship. "Probably not. But we'll figure it out as we go. That's what humans do." As Zara looked out at the vast fleet of human warships, she realized that the galaxy had no idea what was coming. For centuries, they had thought humans were weak and primitive. Tomorrow they would learn the truth, and the truth would change everything. The battle for Hegemonia Prime began at dawn. Ship time. Zara stood on the bridge of the Retribution and watched the human fleet drop out of hyperspace around the Hegemony capital system. What they found there was worse than anyone had expected. The ancient machine had grown. What started as a single device on the planet's surface had become a massive structure that reached into space. It was converting everything it touched into more of itself. Ships, space stations, even the moons were being turned into metal and circuits. "My God," whispered Captain Morrison. "It's huge." On the display, they could see the remains of the Hegemony fleet. Dozens of their most powerful warships floated dead in space, their hulls partially converted into machine components. The few surviving ships were running away as fast as they could. "This is Admiral Harrison to all ships," came the voice over the communication system. "Begin Operation Shutdown. Remember, energy weapons will only make it stronger. Use kinetic weapons only." The human fleet moved into attack formation. Zara had studied space battles in school, but she had never seen anything like this. The human ships moved with perfect coordination, like a single living creature with hundreds of parts. The ancient machine noticed them and began to fight back. Beams of energy shot out from the converted planet, striking the human ships. But instead of being destroyed, the human vessels absorbed the attacks with their advanced shields. "Dr. Velthane," Morrison said, "we need you in the science lab. Can you find the machine's control center?" Zara ran through the ship's corridors to the science laboratory. The room was full of humans and aliens working together to analyze the ancient device. On the main screen, she could see detailed scans of the machine's structure. "There," she said, pointing to a section near what used to be the planet's core. "That's the central processing unit. If we can destroy that, the whole machine should shut down." "How do we get to it?" asked the human science officer. Zara studied the scans. The machine had built layers of defenses around its core. Getting there would require fighting through kilometers of automated weapons and defensive systems. "We need a small team to go inside," she said. "The machine's defenses are designed to stop large ships. A small group might be able to get through." Morrison nodded. "I'll lead the team." "I'm coming with you," Zara said. "It's too dangerous. I'm the only one who fully understands how the machine works. You need me." While they prepared for the mission inside the machine, the space battle continued. The human fleet was winning, but slowly. Their kinetic weapons could damage the machine, but it was so huge that destroying it would take days they didn't have. Zara suited up in human combat armor and joined Morrison's team on a small assault ship. As they flew toward the machine, she could see the battle raging around them. Human ships fired solid metal projectiles at incredible speeds, tearing chunks out of the machine's structure. But for every piece they destroyed, the machine grew two more. "This is taking too long," Morrison said as their ship dodged energy beams from the machine's defenses. "The machine is spreading faster than we can damage it." "Then we have to shut it down from the inside," Zara replied. Their ship landed on what used to be the planet's surface. Now it was a landscape of metal and circuits, with mechanical tentacles reaching up toward space. The team of 12 humans and Zara began fighting their way toward the machine's core. The inside of the machine was like a nightmare. Corridors that changed shape as they walked through them, weapons that grew out of the walls, mechanical creatures that tried to capture them and convert them into machine parts. But the humans fought with incredible skill and determination. Their weapons were designed specifically to fight these ancient machines. Their armor protected them from the machine's conversion beams. Most importantly, they refused to give up no matter how bad things got. "How much further?" Morrison asked as they fought through another group of mechanical defenders. We're close, Zara said, checking her scanner. The core should be just ahead. They rounded a corner and found themselves in a massive chamber. In the center was the machine's brain, a sphere of metal and energy the size of a building. It pulsed with power, coordinating the activities of the entire machine. There it is, Zara said. We need to plant the charges at specific points around the sphere. The explosion has to be perfectly timed, or the machine will just repair itself. The humans spread out around the chamber, placing explosive charges while fighting off the machine's defenses. Zara worked frantically to calculate the exact timing needed to shut down the core permanently. Charges are set, reported Morrison. Ready to detonate. Wait, Zara said, still working on her calculations. The timing has to be exact. If we're off by even a few microseconds, it won't work. Above them, the space battle was getting more intense. Through the chamber's walls, they could hear the sounds of metal being torn apart as the human fleet continued its attack. Dr. Velthine, Morrison said urgently, we need to do this now. The machine is starting to spread to the next system. Zara finished her calculations and uploaded them to the detonation system. Ready. Everyone get to minimum safe distance. The team ran for cover as the charges exploded in perfect sequence. The machine's core cracked, then shattered, then went dark. Throughout the chamber, the mechanical systems began shutting down. It's working, Zara said, watching her scanner. The core is offline, but their victory celebration was cut short. The machine had one final defense system. As its core died, it began a self-destruct sequence that would destroy the entire system and everything in it. We need to get out of here now, Morrison said. They ran through the collapsing machine toward their ship. Behind them, the ancient structure was falling apart as its control systems failed. They reached their ship just as the machine's self-destruct reached critical levels. As their ship escaped into space, Zara watched the ancient machine destroy itself in a blast of energy that lit up the entire system. When the light faded, Hegemonia Prime was gone. But the threat was over. This is Admiral Harrison to all ships, came the voice over the communication system. The ancient machine has been destroyed. Operation Shutdown is complete. Cheers echoed through the human fleet. They had won the first battle. But Zara knew this was just the beginning. Over the next several months, the galaxy learned the truth about humanity. Human fleets appeared at every inhabited system, offering protection from the hegemony and any other threats. Human diplomats made contact with every planetary government, proposing a new kind of galactic alliance based on cooperation instead of domination. Some species welcomed the humans immediately. Others were suspicious at first but changed their minds when they saw how the humans treated their new allies. The humans didn't demand tribute or submission. They didn't claim to be better than other species. They simply offered to help and asked for friendship in return. The hegemony alliance fell apart within weeks. Without their ancient weapon and faced with overwhelming human military superiority, the hegemony leaders had no choice but to surrender. But instead of being punished, they were offered the chance to join the new galactic government as equals. 6 months after the Battle of Hegemonia Prime, Zara stood on the observation deck of a new kind of ship. It was called the Unity, and it was crewed by beings from dozens of different species working together as equals. She wore the uniform of the Galactic Federation Science Corps, a new organization dedicated to peaceful exploration and research. "Are you happy?" asked Marcus Chen, who had joined her at the observation port. He was now the chief engineer of the Unity, designing new technologies that combined the best ideas from many different species. "Yes," Zara said, watching the stars. "I think I am. The galaxy is a better place now." "It's not perfect," Marcus said. "There are still problems. Some species don't trust each other. Some worlds are still recovering from hegemony rule, and we still haven't found all of the ancient machines. But we're working together now," Zara replied. "All of us as equals. That's something the galaxy never had before." Marcus nodded. "Humans are good at bringing people together. It's one of our talents." Through the viewport, Zara could see ships from a dozen different species traveling together through space. Human vessels flew alongside Meridian exploration ships, Altarian cargo haulers, and vegan medical frigates. They were all working toward the same goal, building a better galaxy for everyone. "Do you ever think about what would have happened if the hegemony had succeeded?" Zara asked. "Sometimes," Marcus said. "But then I remember something important. They didn't succeed because they underestimated humanity. They thought we were primitive and weak. They were wrong. Zara smiled, remembering the first time she had seen Marcus refusing to give up on their dying ship. Yes, they were very wrong. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. Never underestimate the species that refuses to quit. Never dismiss the people who help others even when they don't have to. Never ignore the ones who choose cooperation over domination. The galaxy had learned not to underestimate humanity, and humanity had risen to meet the challenge, not as conquerors, but as protectors and friends. The age of hegemony rule was over. The age of the Galactic Federation had begun, and it started with a single human saying, "This is the United Earth Navy. We are here to help."